Well, good afternoon from Washington, D.C., from the capital of the free world. I'm your host, Arash, and you're watching our first live broadcast from the Senate Russell building under this beautiful dome here at the capital of the United States, as you can see. And since I have launched my Farsi YouTube channel, a lot of the Iranian diaspora, second generation, third generation, even American friends would come approach me and ask me if I can start an English channel. And so here we go. This is our first live hit for all of you who've been asking. This channel is established because of your support. So I appreciate your support. Our team, thank you. My team who is directing the videos on this special live edition from London, Mr. Arman, who's been tirelessly working on this. We welcome you all to this live hit. If you are not familiar with who I am, my name is Arash. I'm an Iranian-American reporter in Congress, in the White House. I've been reporting inside and outside Iran for more than 21 years. I started my career in Tehran as a reporter for American media outlets. Funny story is that I had a rock band in Iran in the year 2000, and ABC America was in Tehran doing a story about, at the time, the parliamentary elections in Iran. Back in 1998, the Iranian reformist president was so-called reformist president, one Mohammad Khatami. The year 2000 was pretty much the year of the midterms for Iran, and the reformists were expected to sweep the parliament, which they did. But then ABC was there to do a political story, and then somebody introduced my band to ABC America. So they were very skeptical about an Iranian band with our thick accent covering Pink Floyd, Eagles, Dire Straits. But when they came to visit, they just dropped by. They were convinced. And ABC America did a story on my band. We did a couple of concerts in Tehran, believe it or not, rock and roll in English. We were very hopeful and very naive. And little did we know that would trigger my first TV production. That was the entry for me to enter media. It's very unconventional. If you wanted to become a producer or a cameraman or an editor, you usually had to go through certain channels inside the Iranian regime. The Ministry of Islamic Guidance and Propaganda, سازمان تبلیغات اسلامی, سازمان ارشاد اسلامی was one of them. So usually people would go through that route. I completely circumvented that route. And first job I did was production for ABC News. And then from then on, I worked as a reporter in Tehran for 8 years until I was arrested by the regime in Iran. I fled in 2007, sought refuge here in America. Since then, I've been reporting here from US Congress. So in case you want to hear an alternative voice, in case you want to know the truth about Iran, the power structure in Iran, the power apparatus in Iran, in case you want to hear things that the legacy media here would not tell you, you're at the right place. This is the right time. A lot of you have been asking me how the war with Iran would end. Well, if you want to know how the war with Iran ends, you should not be listening to Donald Trump. President Trump's only concern right now is to tamp down the markets. So he comes out with all these innovative ideas. Where one day they're negotiating. One day we're not negotiating. One day he says he want to talk to Iran. The other day he says he doesn't care if Iran doesn't come to the negotiating table. Conflicting messages. And if you listen to legacy media here or parts of the Congress, all they can tell you is, there's chaos, there's no objectives, there's no clear objectives. It's a quagmire. The Trump administration doesn't know what they're doing. And it's like a manufactured crisis that they've been running for a while. They're not, at the same time, let me tell you this, I've been here since 2007. as an Iranian American reporter. There's little appetite in Washington, D.C. To know what's really happening on the ground. Washington, D.C. is pretty much ignorant about everything that's happening in the world. They don't care about the truth. They have their own perception. As long as that perception is vivid and they can live with it, Washington, D.C. doesn't care, doesn't want to know about the truth. This is an empire that has been built around this Beltway. If you come to DC, if you visit DC, if you live in DC, if you've lived here long enough, you would know Washington, DC is not America, is not regular America. Washington, DC is an empire of its own. So for the past 150 years, people have come to this city to change it. And this city has changed them all, except one person. And that person's name is Donald John Trump. That's why they hate him so much. So if you listen to legacy media, they're not going to tell you how the war is going to end. And Mr. Trump is not going to signal anything significant. Right now, his strategy is to confuse everyone, even his own cabinet. He doesn't care. Confuse everyone. And then emerge as someone who is completely uncontrolled. He's not in nobody's pockets. He's completely unpredictable for everybody. Like I said, even sometimes his own advisors, hell, sometimes even his own cabinet doesn't know how Mr. Trump is going to react. For them, Mr. Trump is both Jekyll and Hyde. If you've ever read Roger Kipling's book, Shere Khan and Tobacco, Trump is both Jekyll and Hyde in Roger Kipling's book. So how do you know how the war is going to end? Who should we be listening to if we want to get some sort of a sense of how this war is going to proceed? What's going to be the next step? Well, the first person that comes to mind is Mr. Larry Fink. Larry Fink runs BlackRock. BlackRock being the largest asset management company in the world. This is Mr. Larry Fink. He's been all over the news lately. If you listen to his interviews, he hasn't been shying away about talking about what a great opportunity it would be. A global recession, what a great opportunity it would be for BlackRock and companies who are on that level to change the whole world, to change the world order in terms of monetary policies, in terms of technologies that are being used to transfer assets, meaning mostly digital technology, cryptocurrency. And he's been relentlessly talking about tokenization of assets. Mr. Larry Fink, a few weeks ago, had a famous interview where he talked about the threat of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, against the global shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. And in that famous interview, Mr. Fink said, and I quote, "If the threat on the global shipping does not subside or does not, after 40 days, is not completely eliminated, he expects a global recession. He expects oil to basically go up as high as 150 a barrel, 200 a barrel for places in the world. There are places in the world that he expects them to have as high as like $300 a barrel of oil that they have to buy. And this is, according to Mr. Fink, this will continue as long as that threat, which is the IRGC, is sitting in Iran. As long as IRGC is controlling the Strait of Hormuz, that threat is there. The choke point is choked, and there will be global recession. And then he adds, what a great opportunity that would be for the global companies, international companies, multinational companies like BlackRock to tokenize assets. If our director in London is ready, I think he has a bite for you we can run. Parts of his interview.
You know, I do believe we're just at the beginning of the tokenization of all assets, from real estate to equities, the bonds, across the board. $4.1 trillion of money in sitting globally in digital wallets. A lot of that money is outside the United States. If we could tokenize a ETF, digitize that ETF, we could have investors who are just beginning to, invest in markets through, let's say, crypto.
So what a great opportunity that is. How would you push a technology like cryptocurrencies and tokenization of assets from the sidelines of the market all the way to the mainstream? How would you push that? Well, you force the market to adapt. How do you force the market to adapt? Well, one of the ways that when you look at cryptocurrencies and the new technologies and the emergence of these new technologies, they're mainly used as a hedge against the depreciation of fiat money. So if you have dollar or euro or yuan or yen or whatever, and that money is depreciating in value, if you have Iranian rial that depreciates 1,000% a year, or you have the Venezuela's bolivar that depreciates 10,000% a year, you want to create a hedge against that depreciation. That's why you go buy Bitcoin, is that Bitcoin, that cryptocurrency, so far for most people, for users, is a hedge against depreciation of money. How do you make public basically upgrade that a little bit from a hedge to payment system? And that is, if the public loses trust on these fiat money. What is a fiat money? What is a US dollar? A US dollar is pretty much a piece of paper with some ink on it, or for that matter, Japanese yen or European euro. It's just a piece of paper with some ink on it. The reason that consumers pick that money up is that they trust that money. They trust that euro or dollar or yen or yuan is not going to lose as much value. Is that if you can buy, 100 hamburgers with $100 note, this year, next year, you can buy 98 hamburgers, you're still good. So it's, for now, this is the trust. The trust is the only motive for people to convert their assets into dollar. But if you have a global recession, if you have inflation as high as 30, 40% in America, as high as 100% in Europe, and as high as 1,000% in other countries around the world, in third world countries, so-called third world countries, then that's where you would be forcing the public to lose trust on fiat money and then move on to cryptocurrencies. So if you want to know how the war with Iran ends, don't listen to Donald Trump. Listen to Larry Fink. Listen to Larry Fink, who runs $11 trillion of world's assets in BlackRock. Listen to what he's saying about tokenization of assets, how long he's been talking about the amount of money that is sitting in digital wallets outside the United States. If you listen to his interview, he mentioned something around $14.1 trillion right now, sitting in digital wallets outside the United States, has not been touched. They can be tokenized. You can basically bring them into the stream of assets and money that American companies such as BlackRock are managing. And a couple of new basically articles about Mr. Larry Fink, if Armand John switches to the last links that I sent you. So today and yesterday, it was announced that BlackRock has actually made so much money. Which one is that, Armand John? Let me see. Well, this is the interview that says basically BlackRock has had his strongest year so far in 2 decades in terms of profit, while everyone is being very cautious, while people are losing money because of the inflation, while assets are up volatile, while oil is volatile, many of the commodities are volatile. At the same time, BlackRock has made the most. It has had the strongest year it has ever had in the past 20 years in terms of profit. And then the other one is that it says the private credit shakeout. The next one says the private credit shakeout is an opportunity for the $13.9 trillion feud. Um, and the fund that BlackRock says has the opportunity to manage. So Larry Fink is one of the great indicators of how this war is going to end. According to what he says, the threat, as long as the threat against the international shipping remains on the northern part of the Strait of Hormuz, which is basically the IRGC, the Islamic Republic of Iran, as long as the IRGC is there, as long as the regime in Iran is sitting there, the threat is not gone. The oil will be as high, even if the Strait of Hormuz is reopened. You will never see an oil below 100 until the regime sits there. But after that, after the regime falls, Larry Fink predicts that oil would collapse on its face, and the price of oil would collapse to as low as $40 a barrel. $40, 40. Right now, today was 105. So at the time that the regime in Iran falls, when the IRGC no longer controls the Strait of Hormuz, when the international shipping is restored, you would see that the price of oil, according to Mr. Larry Fink, would collapse on its face. So Larry Fink, we talked about him, put him aside. He's not the only person that I think is a great indicator of what is going to come next as far as market. The other one person that I'd like to talk to you about is Jensen Huang. Jensen Huang being NVIDIA's CEO. Well, NVIDIA has been carrying the market, especially the S&P. If you have stocks here in America, you know for the past 10 years, the yield that NVIDIA has brought along to this market pretty much has carried the whole market. While other companies like American companies like Intel or Facebook has run out of ideas, while Apple has run out of ideas and innovation, NVIDIA has been the sole company in the United States that has been on the forefront of innovation, on the forefront of chip design, chip manufacturing, on the forefront of AI, data centers. And also Jensen Huang has very good relationship with Mr. Trump, very good friends. In fact, when Mr. Trump traveled to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and United Arab Emirates at the beginning of his second term, one of the American CEOs that tagged along was Jensen Huang. Trump called him himself, asked him to join the American delegation. So Jensen Huang went along and they talked with Saudi, Emirati, and Qatari officials about opening up new data centers in those countries, opening up the possibility of artificial intelligence processing and manufacturing of certain types of chips in United Arab Emirates. Now, we know United Arab Emirates is a major stakeholder in NVIDIA. They've been a major stakeholder for a long time. Now we know why, because pretty much for the future of weaponry, for the future of chips, the technologies that the United States government is using to develop AI, especially military-grade AI, they're completely dependent on NVIDIA's technology. And Jensen Huang has been asked several times to expand its operation in United Arab Emirates, in Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. And the company is very willing, but one of the biggest setbacks, one of the biggest pushbacks against expanding their operation in the Middle East was the threat of Iranian ballistic missiles. And he said it time and again. Jensen Huang has been talking about the threat of those missiles hanging over United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. These data centers are huge and they're very sensitive to even fluctuations of weather, let alone to a little bit of like shake. And these giant ballistic missiles in Iran have been reaching and hitting United Arab Emirates very hard. So he was asked, Jensen Huang was asked very recently about what he thinks about the conflict with the Islamic Republic, United States and Israel. We know NVIDIA also has a production line in Israel that they have not shut down. And this is what Mr. Jensen Huang said. Listen to this.
We are 100% in Israel. In Middle East, we have 6,000 families there. Yeah. We have a lot of Iranians at NVIDIA, and their families are still in Iran. And so we have a lot of families there. The first thing is they're quite anxious, they're quite concerned, quite scared. We're thinking about them all the time. We're monitoring and keeping an eye on them all the time. They have 100% of our support. I've been asked several times, are we still considering being in Israel? We are 100% in Israel. We are 100% behind the families there. We are 100% in the Middle East. I was also asked, given what's happening in the Middle East, is that an area where we believe that we can expand artificial intelligence to? I believe that there's a reason we went to war, and I believe at the end of the war, Middle East will be more stable than before. And so if we were there, if we were considering it before, we should absolutely be considering it after.
Well, you heard the man. He just said it. He just said he believes that there's a reason that the United States went to war with Iran. And the reason is that they expect, people like Jensen Huang expect to see a more stable Middle East after this war. Because many of these countries, like the United Arab Emirates, like Saudis, like Qataris, they want to diversify their economy. They want to move away from oil. Everyone knows oil is dying. Everyone knows there's not much profit to be had. These countries are smart. They want to move away from fossil fuel. They want to diversify their economy. But the biggest threat against diversification of their economy is the Islamic Republic of Iran, actually. So that's why they've been cozying up to Donald Trump administration, giving them incentives, at times maybe even borderline bribing the US administration, because the threat of the Islamic Republic would not allow major companies to come and invest in United Arab Emirates, in Qatar. Now that the missiles are gone, now that the threat of the nuclear is gone, now things are very different. Now people like Jensen Huang can go in and invest. Actually, companies like Microsoft want to go to Saudi Arabia for data centers. Amazon does want to go into Saudi Arabia for data centers and cloud. And that means a trillion and a half of investment. Also give countries like United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia a hedge against pretty much China. They will be developing on their own AI system, which is more dependent and more compatible with American technology than the Chinese technology. They will be completely dependent on American companies. That's what the US government wants. And Jensen Huang, basically, you heard the man talking about how they're not going to shut down their operation in Israel, or how much he backs the production line in Israel, or how many Iranians he said work for NVIDIA. They have families in Iran. He's watching both sides. He is very well informed. And after this war, especially now that we know how much Pentagon is dependent on artificial intelligence companies or technology companies, such as Android, such as Palantir, such as NVIDIA, there's no going back. The US military has shown capabilities to execute, basically hitting targets, finding targets, surveillance, prediction, elimination of threats. They're all dependent on Project Maven being developed mostly by Palantir on NVIDIA chips, mostly. Pretty much all of their chips are NVIDIA chips. So two people that I think you and I, all of us, should keep an eye on if we want to know what's going to happen next as far as war with Iran. Is Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock. He hasn't been shy to talk about it. And the second person is Jensen Huang. And I watch videos on social media, here and there, where they're talking about, these are like, monsters. They're just changing the world. These are the people who have no heart. They take advantage of wars. I don't think there's like a separation between me and them. I don't think it works like that. I think there's only us. There's no us and them, because I'm not in that position to, I've never been in a position to manage other people's assets. Once you're in that position, you have responsibilities. You have certain responsibilities, you have mouths to feed. The whole global economy relies on the decisions that you're making. And there is a class of people who have that kind of talent to be able to make those decisions, to be able to look into a crisis and see opportunities. Donald Trump is one of them. He has proven time and again since the 70s, when there's crisis, there's opportunities to be had. So is Jensen Huang, so is Larry Fink, so is this class of world leader, global leaders. So I don't see it in terms of us versus them. I know we're all dust in the wind. There's not much that people in America can do. There's not much that people like you and I can do. The whole power lies in the hands of people like Larry Fink. But we have contributed to that system for a very long time. I can't sit outside and say, oh, I'm not one of them. Neither can you. If you're using electricity, if you're using products, if you're using capitalism in any ways or any capacity, we're all contributing to it. There's no us versus them. So that is, I think, the final line for you guys. Hot and updated. Thank you again for joining us on the first live broadcast of Arash Unfiltered. Like I said, I've established this channel mostly for Iranian Americans, diaspora, people who don't speak Farsi, and they've always been asking me to start an English channel. Here you are. This is our first live hit. This is our first live broadcast. I'm glad that we've been able to deliver it without much delay. I special thanks to our director in London, Mr. Arman, who's been putting this together tirelessly. And I hope I see you all again tomorrow here. We're going to have this, we're going to make it a tradition to come back every day and talk to you live about what's happening regarding the war with Iran and the further developments here in Washington, D.C., be it coming from U.S. Congress or the White House. So come back again tomorrow. We'll see you here. Javid Shah, and goodbye.